plans for F-16 pilot training still in the fog. Despite the U.S. green lighting the supply of F-16 jets for Ukraine, plans remain unclear regarding Ukrainian pilot training in EU and NATO countries. On May 23, EU Foreign Secretary Joseph Borrell said that pilot training for future F-16 pilots is now underway in NATO countries, including Poland. However, Polish officials say this is not yet in progress. The apparently conflicting accounts come after us, President Joe Biden said Washington would not block other countries with F-16s from transferring them to Ukraine. For its part, however, the U.S. stopped short of promising us aircraft for Ukraine or new aircraft from Lockheed Martin, the jet's manufacturer. It remains unclear from Borrell's remarks whether he was referring to training using the F-16 itself or via other aircraft in preparation for flying the F-16. I am happy that, finally, the training of pilots for the F-16 has started in several countries. It will take time, but the sooner the better, Borrell said. Later, in a video interview tweeted by W Europe, he mentioned Poland as a NATO member already conducting pilot training. However, Polish Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak told W Europe in a brief video interview, "We are ready to start this training, but it hasn't started yet. How many pilots?" "We are open," Błaszczak said. "It depends on our possibilities." The Polish position: supplies of aircraft from Poland to Ukraine are unlikely to come from the 48 F-16s that Poland already has. The Polish Air Force began receiving factory, new F-16 Block 52 jets in 2006 to fulfill its NATO mission, requirement for the defense of NATO in Eastern Europe, which continues to this day. Błaszczak addressed this very point, stating, "Poland is located on the eastern flank of NATO. So we have some obligations concerning not only protecting Polish air, but protecting, for instance, Baltic states' air. Of course, we are open to suggestions," he added. Poland signed a letter of offer to receive 32 F-35 fifth-generation fighters on June 31, 2020. These aircraft are scheduled for delivery in 2024. Other EU and NATO countries' positions. According to Forbes, Belgium, Denmark, and Norway are reportedly willing to supply Ukraine with F-16s. These countries, along with the Netherlands, have an estimated 125 F-16s between them. Both Norway and the Netherlands have replaced their F-16s with F-35s, while Belgium and Denmark are still using their jets as operational aircraft with NATO commitments similar to Poland. The UK, which does not have F-16s, has committed to training Ukrainian pilots. Whilst not specifying the level of training, one possibility is that it will focus on new pilots going through basic training with the plan to send them to transition courses after earning their wings. WISE Germany has also said it would be willing to train Ukrainian pilots and, similarly to the UK, does not have F-16s. US focused on partnership commitments. At a Pentagon briefing on May 23, U.S. Department of Defense, DoD spokesperson Brigadier General Patrick Ryder discussed Ukraine acquiring F-16s. Fistitspees for Ukraine acquiring F-16. About the long-term commitment to Ukraine, Ryder asserted, these F-16s will not be relevant to the upcoming counteroffensive. A DoD report said, right now, no number of F-16s, any indication of where those aircraft will come from, or when they will be delivered, has been revealed. What has been revealed, however, is that the U.S. will participate with partners and allies in training Ukrainian pilots on how to use the aircraft. According to the DoD, training might begin in the next few weeks or months, but it has not confirmed who would likely conduct the training, in which European countries it would take place, or where the F-16s would come from. Ryder did say the U.S. would be involved, however. That training will take place outside of Ukraine at sites in Europe, Ryder clarified. But in terms of when that training will begin, how those jets will be provided, who will provide them, we're continuing to work with our international partners on that front. Europe wants Latin America on side against Vladimir Putin. Good luck with that. Diplomatic efforts to win support for Ukraine have been largely rebuffed so far. In the struggle for hearts and minds against Russia, Europe has its sights on a new target. Unfortunately for them, Latin America's not listening. An extended charm offensive by senior diplomats from major European nations and institutions has sought to win over neutrally minded Latin American nations to their cause as part of the broader geopolitical battle with Russia and China. UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly is the latest to try his hand, visiting Brazil on Wednesday for the final day of a week-long tour of Latin America, which has already included high-level talks in Colombia and Chile. The trip, the first by a UK foreign secretary to the region in 5 years, is part of a wider diplomatic push set out explicitly by Cleverly in a speech last December to win over nations who often describe themselves as non-aligned and are wary of committing themselves in any direction just because other countries want them to. South America has attracted particular attention from Western leaders in recent months as Ukraine's allies roam the world in search of critical minerals for high-tech supply chains, as well as ammunition and weapons to help Kyiv recover Russian-occupied territory. Both Chile and Brazil have hundreds of the German-made Leopard tanks of the type the West has given to Ukraine in recent months. Colombia and Brazil have Russian-made military hardware including MiG transport helicopters and anti-tank missiles that would be easy for the Ukrainian army to operate. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sought to bolster Brazil into supporting his country with a speech at the G7 summit Sunday, targeted partly at Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. But a bilateral meeting between Zelensky and Lula, as he is widely known, was canceled due to scheduling reasons, Zelensky told reporters. And speaking to Politico ahead of Cleverly's visit, a Brazilian official ruled out any increase in support for Kyiv. Brazil has so far condemned the Russian invasion of Ukraine but refused to provide military aid or to sanction Moscow. In an ideal world, the Brits would like Brazil to be joining sanctions. But they are smart enough to understand that there's no such a thing as an ideal world and things are as they are, the official said. Asked if Britain could persuade Chile to supply military aid to Ukraine, a Chilean official said, "Not gonna happen, not at all. It's a topic that needs to be solved by the big powers, not something we can do from the end of the world." Delivering a speech Monday in Chile's capital, Santiago, Cleverly sought to lure Latin American governments closer to the West by arguing the region deserves a bigger say on the international stage and supporting Brazil getting a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. Our world's multilateral institutions need reform, he said, in particular to give more voice and more influence to Latin America. The European Union has been making similar overtures in recent months, with senior figures like European Council President Charles Michel and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visiting Latin America. Michael, in particular, has been pressing countries in the so-called Global South to support the U.S. stance on Ukraine, fearing some to be overly sympathetic toward Russia. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is next in line. She'll head to Brazil early next month to promote final works on a new Latin America trade deal, while also urging Lula to condemn Russian aggression and support Ukraine. Scholz failed at the latter task when he visited Brasilia in January, resulting in a tense press conference in which Lula said his country has no interest in handing over munitions that can be used in the war between Ukraine and Russia. Trading places, Germany remains one of the main drivers behind the push for closer ties with Latin America, however. Scholz on Monday named the many countries in the American South as top of a list of regions with which he wants the EU to secure major new trade deals. The EU's draft agreement with the Mercosur bloc of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay has been under negotiation for almost 25 years and is a top priority for Germany, with Berlin keen to open up the hugely protected South American market. "I am very much in favor of finally achieving quickly what has taken so long to make progress," Scholz said this week. To that end, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will head to Chile, Brazil, and Argentina in the second week of June, 3 officials with knowledge of her trip said. Her tour, originally planned for April, will also focus on both the looming trade deal and geosecurity. Bilateral trade is officially the focus of Cleverly's current week-long visit too, as well as developing a Latin American cooperation on energy and environmental issues. But officials from 2 of the nations he visited said Cleverly was also keen to discuss their respective approaches to Russia and China. How to approach China remains perhaps the thorniest issue of all, with Beijing still the biggest trading partner of both Brazil and Chile. Neither left-wing government wants to antagonize Beijing, nor to be forced to choose between trading with China or the US. Previous left-aligned regimes in the region have endured deeply checkered relations with Washington. The Brazilian official quoted above said, "Brasilia wants to preserve its own space of autonomy and that they expected cleverly to be diplomatic in his exchanges with his Brazilian counterpart Mauro Vieira, whom he is due to meet Wednesday. The Brits are trying to find the right balance in their relationship with China in light of their interests, and so is Brazil," the official said. It would be ludicrous for the foreign secretary to go to Brazil and ask Brazil to trade less with China. He knows this would be a non-starter. The Chilean official, however, said they were disappointed Cleverly had not offered more to woo his nation. "If you want to compete with China, you've got to pay. You've got to bring something in exchange," the official said. "I would have expected more concrete commitments, but that wasn't seen. For Europe, there is still much work to be done.